The Secretary General said he is deeply concerned about the possible intensification of instability in Venezuela and the potential impact on the region and the precedent the U.S. military operation may set for how relations between and among states are conducted. The Secretary General said he remains deeply concerned that the rules of international law have not been respected with regard to the military intervention on January 3rd. He highlighted that the Charter of the UN enshrines a prohibition of the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any member state. The Secretary General said it is possible to prevent a wider and more destructive conflagration. He called on all Venezuelan actors to engage in an inclusive, democratic dialogue in which all sectors of society can determine their future. He further urged Venezuela's neighbors and the international community more broadly to act in a spirit of solidarity in adherence to the principles, laws, and rules erected to promote peaceful coexistence. Also, just on the humanitarian front in Venezuela, our colleagues from the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that the situation in Venezuela remains dire. At the start of this year, some 7.9 million people in Venezuela were found to need urgent support. This is the equivalent of more than a quarter of the country's population. We, along with our humanitarian partners under the leadership of the resident humanitarian coordinator in Venezuela, are assessing the situation, focusing on providing support as needed. We continue to provide assistance to the most vulnerable, including food, healthcare, and protection services. The UN emphasizes the importance of respect of international law and the need to protect civilians and preserving humanitarian operational continuity so that assistance can be delivered in line with humanitarian principles. Funding is obviously also critical. The humanitarian response plan for Venezuela remains critically underfunded.
Did the UN recognize Nicolas Maduro as legitimate president of Venezuela?
Look, Secretary General, we're not in the business of recognizing governments. This is a member state organization. The credentials of the Venezuelan delegation here, as far as I know, were not questioned. I think if you look back in the aftermath and prior to the last election in Venezuela, I think the Secretary General was very clear in his concerns on how the election was run, the lack of transparency, as well as the, I would also refer you to statements of the independent experts he appointed. As he said in the statement over the weekend, I mean, regardless of the situation in Venezuela, he has a very deep concern that international law was not respected during the U.S. operation.
Were the actions of the United States a violation of the UN Charter?
As I said, he is very concerned that as he said in the statement, that what happened in Venezuela over the weekend was not in respect of international law or the Charter.
And has he spoken to Delcy Rodriguez, the Vice President?
He has not. The Secretary General had he's on a plane on his way back. He had an official program in Lisbon today with the government that was canceled, and he should be in the building shortly.
Why in the statement the Secretary General did not condemn but expressed deeply concern about the situation, what happened on the 3rd of January?
I will leave the analysis to you. I think he made his position very clear in the statement. He made his position that we issued over the weekend. He's made his position very clear in the statement that Rosemary DiCarlo read out on his behalf over the weekend. And he has been very consistent in calling for the respect of the Charter, respect for the principles of sovereignty, political independence, territorial integrity of states, and the prohibition of the threat of use of force.
In light of such an operation, how is the UN still relevant?
How is what?
The UN is still relevant. You cannot stop it. You cannot condemn it. You just say respect of law, respect of UN Charter. But
well, which UN are you speaking about?
But
I'm asking you. Are you speaking about the Security Council and its ability to ensure that there is respect for international law? Are you talking about our UN humanitarian workers in Venezuela who continue to support the people of Venezuela?
For example?
Are you talking about the human rights framework, I think, listen, questions are all legitimate, but I think you need to ask whoever's asking you those questions, which UN they're speaking about. And I think what you heard from many council members today was a reaffirmation of the need for member states to respect the charter that they themselves signed on to, right? The treaties that they themselves agreed to. The Secretary General doesn't have a nightstick with which he can beat member states over the head.
Is there a planned discussion with the Secretary General and this administration on anything related to U.S. Movement forward in this hemisphere? How much is the UN concerned about, what has obviously taken place and what is potentially down the pike?
I mean, listen, as I said, Secretary General is on his way. He'll meet with the senior advisors this afternoon, and we'll keep you posted on further contacts. There is a concern, and I think Secretary General expressed it in his remarks, of the potential destabilization of the region and beyond. I think he has been very consistent in commenting on the various things we've seen the last few years that, in his mind, were not in line with international law and with the charter that all of these 193 member states have signed into. What we want to see is not the power of might. What we want to see is the power of law.
Early December 2025, the United States have issued, under the Trump administration, the National Security Strategy, which stipulated clearly, or invoked clearly, the Monroe Doctrine. And since there are still many nations around the world look up to the United Nations and to the weight of the Secretary General's statements and comments on current issues, what is precisely the Secretary General view the new national security strategy of the Trump administration, as well as the invocation of the Monroe Doctrine in the 21st century? Thank you.
We're not going to get into a detailed commentary analysis of the national security strategy of the United States or any other member state, right? I can repeat using different combination of words to the questions I've been asked. For us, it's about the charter. For us, it's about international law. It's about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These things need to be respected. And every country has a right to establish its own national security policy and its own national security aims. What we ask is that they be done in full respect of international law.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.